the day where I have to bring politics into the safe space. I really have tried to avoid this approach and avoid bringing this type of energy into my space. But obviously, if I don't bring it into the space, nothing will really change. If I don't speak about it, nothing will really change. This type of energy that we're about to step into is necessary. These type of talks, this discussion is necessary. So, without further ado, thank you everyone for joining me. And on the 25th day of February, the 25th day of Black History Month. Well, I think today is necessary to speak about what occurred or what I've avoided this topic because I felt like it's so just annoying. And, I think a lot of people, I know I'm moving out of trying to focus on politics. So I've divested a lot from it. But, to not accept that the political atmosphere also is a part of the workforce and the corporate atmosphere, what people experience on the job. Mind you, this topic focuses on a workforce. Government is a job. It is a workforce. So I guess it's no surprise about what this topic is about for those that don't know. The current president had shared an image of the former president and his wife, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, of them as apes. This was something that was viewed as a joke and funny. It was actually considered a mistake. All these token phrases that institutions use to minimize harm from racist actions. So, moving forward, yesterday was the State of the Union, and Representative Al Green held up a sign. Black people aren't apes. The sign shouldn't even have to be written. This discussion should not even have to be a part of a discussion, but sadly, here we are. It's something that I did not want to have to bring into this, but this is a workspace and government is a workspace. So this is a topic that I should have to speak on, even though I don't want to because I'm trying to make this more about inclusivity. But as it was said yesterday, that DEI has been eradicated from America, but really DEI can't be eradicated because we all are a representation of DEI. Because it's all about inclusivity, meaning everyone. So back to what I'm saying and the need for him, sadly, to hold a sign that says, Black people aren't apes. We are not. First and foremost, that's just ignorant in itself to keep using this suppressive and superior mindset, which is ignorant in itself, to be shared. Hi, thank you for joining me. To be shared. But then the audacity of the actions after, for him to be removed as if his silent protest was a form of disruption. But really it's not because he's silent. It's amazing how you can be silent and stand still and, stand in a truth and still be demonized. That's something that we need to understand, that you can be demonized just for being you, just for breathing and then holding up saying that I'm not an animal. But just because I'm saying I'm not an animal, I'm viewed as one. I am diminished to less than because I'm escorted away. My opinion does not matter. What I have to say is not valid. Now, this topic is necessary because I speak on issues within the workplace, and government is a corporation. A lot of people don't want to realize that or don't view government as a corporation, but it is. And if you followed me on my very, very, very first topic, I think it wasn't the first day of Black History Month, but the day prior, where the video is Everything is Politics. And specifically, I lay down and explain how there are three corporations within this world: religion, private businesses, and government. So when we think of government, government is a corporation. So this is an actual workspace that we are speaking about, regardless of your, pardon me, regardless of your political view. This is an actual work environment, a work environment that is condoning racist actions, that is condoning and championing the idea of exclusivity, clapping for it as if it is real and a part of what we are as humanity and as humans, and deemed as acceptable. And it's protected as decorum. It's protected as the civilized way to live. But the uncivilized way is to push back and stand and hold a sign and say Black people aren't apes. Mind you, we're not. We're not animals. We are human beings. So even to have to say that is Twilight Zone, you know? So these actions are racist. Point blank, period. These actions highlight how in the workspace hatred, discrimination, inexclusivity, and suppressive mindset is acceptable. These are not things that don't go untoward or don't occur in everyday work environments where people work. It's something that's done every day. This is just something that was highlighted on a political platform. There are people going through this type of situation every day. So to highlight that and to see in real time, this isn't the first time, obviously, but this is my first time speaking about it, in real time is a demonstration of everything that I've been speaking about throughout this past month to try to highlight the lessons that have not been learned, but should have been learned, and what we should reflect on and look forward to and learn from, so that we can move forward into a world and a workspace and an environment and a society that is inclusive for all, that is not suppressive, that is not discriminatory, and that is not filled with hate. Everyone should be embraced for who they are and for what they believe, regardless if you like it or not, regardless of your religious beliefs, regardless of your political beliefs, regardless of just what you believe, you know? That's what America's about. That's what it's about. And nothing about this is a joke, you know? And naming it doesn't make someone inappropriate. That's the danger there. The unprofessionalism. Oh, he's unprofessional because he's holding a sign and silently saying what needs to be said, which shouldn't have to be said from an individual that literally characterizes Black people as apes, which is racist. It's disrespectful and it's dehumanizing. But that is held up as decorum. We're witnessing why and how our systems are broken. Everything that I've spoken about throughout this month is a highlight of what is occurring in real time. Now, I've done my best to try to not get all political because I don't want it to be, the cloudiness of this, because it's more than politics. It's bigger than politics, even though politics helps to frame society, right? And then politics helps to frame the workplace and the workforce. So you can't run from it. So it has to be mentioned, but I'm trying to do it in a way where I want everyone to see how it aligns with everything that I'm speaking about. And it's showing the harm, the acceptable harm of dehumanizing others. This is not a joke. It is not funny. It is not funny to dehumanize other individuals. And if it's done in government, on national television, this leads into our workspaces. This leads into spaces where our children are. This is a representation of America. This is not something that can be overlooked and assumed to be, oh, it was a mistake, or, the courage it takes to stand and hold a sign to say that I'm not an ape. Mind you, he's the only one that did it. That's courage. That's something that when people deal with these things in the workspace, when the talks that if you haven't been following the talks that I've been having, this is what I mean when you stand in the face of adversity. When you stand in the face of someone who views you as inhumane, who views you as a threat just for being. This is the type of courage that I speak about. And that type of courage was on a large platform to where others are seeing it and witnessing it. So you got two groups of people that are being empowered now. Those that believe it and those that don't. So this is a highlight to you no longer playing on the sidelines in the middle. I believe this, but I don't believe that. No, all of that's out the window. Because this is a true representation of what America has become, or really always was, because that's what we're learning by having these talks, that we are not learning from the past. We are dragging the past, kicking and screaming, because it's a lot of resistance, but dragging the past to our present and trying to make it our future. That's the danger. And that's the highlight of where do you stand? What type of leader are you going to be? Are you going to be the one clapping? Thinking it's funny? When it ain't? And then when it's time for accountability, you make up bullshit excuses? Or are you going to be the one standing forward and helping to move us into a better society and into a better world and into a better future for those coming after us? Our kids and their legacy you leave behind. It just is a highlight to the problem in this country. It's people. It's people. It's just the people that have erected raggedy systems that enforce ignorance, and they use suppression to keep people ignorant with the idea that someone's going to be praised. Because I'm guaranteeing you right now, all these people think they're going to get something out of this, and they're not going to get anything, because in the end, accountability will be there. And how do you justify that? That's their fault. That's their problem. They're going to have to deal with that, because we're moving forward and pushing past divisiveness. So for anyone that's afraid, or this is a representation of you not being afraid and you standing up and pushing back and moving forward. And most people see this as politics. No, this is a representation of workspace, because politics is a job. So if they're on the job doing this is highlighting how other leaders are viewing, other leaders are watching. Someone's mimicking and wanting to be like that. And they're going to go and try to be like that. We're already dealing with poor leadership and training of poor leaders. It's the statistics have shown, that a lot of these leaders are coming up. They're learning off of bullshit ass stuff like this, off of people that have not been trained properly, people who don't believe in true humanization within the workspace and believe in the idea of well-being is not real. Fair compensation is not real. That's the type of, training and representation and mentorship a lot of these up and coming leaders are having. And a lot of them are a representation of this image. So when you think of leaders coming up, they're learning from archaic ideas that needed to die and be left dead in the past, being dragged ridiculously into the present and into the future. And so this is why it's such a struggle to even get fair compensation, to get fair representation for well-being, and just, the understanding that the employee does matter. And that highlights also how there is no real movement, and there hasn't been any movement since really, since civil rights have been passed. So what does that say about society? It says, that some just don't want to move forward, and some are afraid to move forward. And it also highlights that and showcases and represents that professionalism isn't really real. It justifies that understanding. Because if it's professional to clap at ignorance, how is that real? It highlights that only those in proximity to power are deemed as professional because they hold power. So however they act is excusatory and explanatory in their own way, justified in some way, right? But for others, oh, they're not because they are not aligned. This is a prime example of how professionalism isn't real and how decorum is an illusion. It's only based on who in power says what is. And that's where we have to ensure accountability. How do we move forward? First off, you can move forward by not being fearful. You see this image. There is no fear. And that's how you have to move forward within your workspaces and how you go about speaking. Because to be honest, if you're not on their side, you ain't got nothing else to lose anyway. Because if we keep moving forward, you ain't going to have nothing left anyway. So you have nothing to lose. And you shouldn't be fearful anyway. That's something that I've spoken about. And that's also a highlight of a lesson that should be learned from Black History Month. That you should not be fearful. And you should be willing to stare adversity in the face while it shies away. You see, he stands with the sign while he looks away. So who's truly fearful? That's something to think about. Who is truly fearful? It definitely ain't Al Green. It definitely ain't him. Everyone else is scared. That's why he had to be escorted. Talking too much. Because when you're not fearful, you empower others. Because when you're not fearful, you empower others. That's another lesson that should have been learned when we look at and reflect on Black history in this nation. Those that are fearful, they stayed in chains. They stayed near the plantations. They stayed calling master. Not want to go too far. Not want to even go with Harriet. They chose that life when they could have ran. If they had the opportunity. Fear is what allows suppression to remain. Fear. That's within the workspace. That's within this society. And that's the lesson that we should be learning from the past. Not to be fearful. You should not fear anything. Fear is what keeps you from growing. Fear keeps you from being innovative. Fear keeps you from being creative. Fear keeps you from empowering not only yourself, but others. When you are fearful, you regress. You submit. You cower. Your brain doesn't even think right. You can't even think properly. You can't create. You can't just evolve. Because you're captivated or not captivated, but, constricted with fear. Fear comes from the psychological warfare of suppression and racism and discrimination. Because that's what it is. And if you've been following me, then you know that's what I've been highlighting and speaking about and showcasing and demonstrating. Now, I try not to get all in depth. I just speak on the specific topic. But that's what it is. You need to take your power back. You need to not be fearful. And you need to smile in the face of adversity. That is something that must be understood. And that is something that must be recognized. None of these things are funny. None of them are jokes. They're not mistakes. They're not misunderstandings. They're intentional. And the intent is to cause harm. The intent is to cause a distraction. The intent is to manipulate the mind. That's what it's about. And it's up to you to recognize how you want to face it. You want to just accept it? Be complicit? Align with it with the hopes that you don't lose your job? The hope that you don't, whatever. I don't even know, because the way society's looking, who knows? But are you that aligned that you're allowing it to happen? Like, it's getting weird now. It's getting strange. And it's time for everyone to recognize that this is not just in politics. This trickles into your workspaces, into your neighborhoods. It's everywhere around you, because if it's in politics, it's everywhere. I mean, these is a highlight to what we already known, and none of these are secret anyway, of course. But it's the idea of it being viewed as professional, as decorum, as graceful, as magnetic, as a representation of leadership, when it's not. So, I will come back again tomorrow, of course. I think I've left enough to be understood, and if not, oh well. But the idea is to recognize that you cannot be fearful, and that you are a representation of what true leadership is and how you move about empowering others. And your responsibility is to be the change. Your responsibility is to help move the world forward and not hold on to this ridiculous, evil mindset, this psychological warfare of darkness. And it's not even realistic. It's like we're in a time warp. I want to say unreality, but I don't even know if that's really a word. And it's just, anyways, I look forward to tomorrow's talk. If you have any suggestions for that, please leave it in the comments. And until then, be the change. You love yourself and others. Bye.